The challenge of being number 3 or number 4 is that actually quite a few things are thoughts that I had are already covered, which is great, which actually helps me go directly into some of the thoughts that I want specifically for all of us to perhaps deliberate. But before that, thank you to the chair and very good afternoon to all of you over here who've taken the time to be here today. What I want to do is to spend a few minutes as I see what the challenges that we have in India and how I think technology can actually make a difference. And then in the last slide of mine, which is where I would like us to spend a little more time to see what does it mean if we have to do all of that, what has to change, either in our thinking, in our policies, in the approach that the government is taking. What else has to change? What is that vision that Mr. Kuntia was talking about earlier today? What is it that we all have to create which has got to look different? We spoke about the demographic dividend, which could be either a demographic dividend or a demographic disaster, depending on how we work on that and how we manage those challenges. But actually, never mind the demographic dividend. I think we have some very, very fundamental issues of access of education. I'm sure Mr. Kuntia will correct some of the numbers I have, but as I see them, that there are large number of students who go to school, which is fantastic. We are very happy about it, 220 million children. But I also understand there are another 130 odd children who don't even, unfortunately, have access to schools. Now, even if you look at the 220 who are also already going there, what is the quality of education? Are we able to give them all the quality of education that is required to make them a part of the demographic dividend rather than as part of the demographic disaster? So that's one question in terms of access and quality of education at the primary, secondary, and then of course we talk about the higher education or even vocational skills that we need to provide to our people so that they become employable. Now, one of the challenges that I come from the state of Karnataka, and it is a very, very sad situation today when you look at number of students who pass the PUC in Karnataka. Less than 40% students actually clear the PUC. Never mind doing a great job and having an access to higher education, just being able to get into to clear what is really a school leaving exam, which then takes you to the higher education. So there's some fundamental things that we need to do. Now, obviously, the government is doing a lot, and that is through the SSA and the Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyans. There's lots that we are trying to do. There's lots more that needs to be done in terms of teacher literacy and availability of teachers, improving the quality. Also in terms of English, whatever is said and done, the moment a child moves from, say, 10th standard into higher education, you have to help the child move beyond vernacular, provide them access or provide them competency in English so that they're able to access higher level of education, make themselves employable. Whether we like it today or not, the world requires Indian, even if you look at just a domestic situation, we require our children to be competent, competent not just in the subject but also in a language. So that's one set of opportunity and challenges. The other challenge really this is sheer opportunity as far as I see, is that we want to be the labor pool of the world. That's great, fantastic, we provide them with skills. But there's also one fundamental change that we need to bring about, which is the way we make our children learn, or the way we allow our children to learn and challenge and be questioning. As I have worked for many, many years in the IT industry, worked in offshoring and all of those good things, the biggest challenge that I've always faced is that I have people who are fantastic technically, but will not ask a question, will not open their mouth, will not challenge something, will just take what is given to them as the gospel truth and just put heads down work. Just doesn't work in the global field, I'm afraid. If we want to be the global labor pool of the world, we have to have our youngsters have the ability to question the status quo. That, unfortunately, today, the education system, for various reasons, one of which, the simple reason is that when you have a teacher-student ratio of 1:50, 1:80 in some private schools, top private schools in Bangalore, 1:80, how on earth will a child ever be allowed to ask a question? It's just not conceivable. So you need to find a mix of other solutions so that while you provide access to them to basic education, you also provide that education in a manner that you actually make the child confident of what they are learning, their ability to ask questions, their ability to question the status quo. The reason why I say this is important, A, because we want to be participating in the global labor pool. Second, today's problems, today's challenges in the world, answers are not sitting in the Western countries. The answers are very much in our backyard or in any part of the world. The answers, for instance, if you're talking about excess utilization of resources, where is the solution going to come from? May not come from the West. And if you really look back into how the Indians have always operated, we have always operated with less, we have always operated with reuse, we have always believed in redeployment. So the 3 R's that we always talk about, like my 10-year-old son will talk about reduce, reuse and recycle. We have done that. Generations and generations have done it. We know how to use washing machine to create lassi, right? We know how to use a bullock cart wheel to make a completely new device altogether. We know how to use a cycle and pedal on it and light a little lamp so that my younger brother can read or my mother can cook. We know a lot of things. But unfortunately, we are not allowing the latent entrepreneurship of our people to come out. So how can our education system, at the end of the day, our education system needs to give the confidence to people to challenge the known paradigms of what are the solutions and create new solutions because the problems are new. There are no established solutions to them. So these are, and of course, one of the key aspects that Ashish has mentioned, so I'm not going to talk about that, our learners are different. No longer our learners are happy with the way the sage on the stage used to teach them, which is what our teachers used to be, and I'm sure that was the case in many of you. The sage on the stage used to give a sermon which we all very nicely took down in our notebooks, learned, because we said that's the gospel truth, not anymore. There's a school in Bangalore which I was talking to the teachers and the academic director. I was very pleasantly surprised. They actually reward a teacher who's not able to answer a child's question. What they are saying is that you're allowing the child to go beyond what. So there are two interesting aspects here. One is giving the child enough confidence to ask a question. Two, you're giving enough confidence to the teacher that it's okay that you don't have all the answers to all the questions in the world, that you and the child together are actually going to explore and find out a new solution. So there are two very, very important learnings that I got out of that personally as I looked at it, and these are some of the things which I feel as we go ahead, and to your question, Ashish, about what methodologies need to change, these were some of the thoughts that I had on that. But then just going on to technology and how I see the role that technology has played over the last so many years in terms of technology and its interplay with education. The first phase was all about computer literacy. How do you make sure people are able to use computers so that they can do either go and work in the computer industry, because that was a huge growing industry, and I have myself, I hold myself accountable for creating a lot of mess that we've created, and huge growth, very unidimensional focus. All engineering colleges only want to produce IT people because, anyway, whatever it is. So there was that age of IT literacy. Second was, how do you use technology to improve how you manage institutions, the back office of education. The third phase, which is really where we are in today, I believe, and we need to make the best of it, is how do you use technology to improve education? How do you actually use technology to improve how the curriculum gets delivered? And we saw some of the challenges that we have. How can technology make sure that we have better access, better quality of access? How do we make technology make the students be more confident, be self-learners, learn at their own pace, challenge, ask questions, explore? Because we are creating employees or a labor pool which not only needs to know the technology or the digital environment of the future, to Bala's point, which I completely agree, but also a new way of working, which is what the whole world is going towards. So, ICT in the classroom, we do a lot of that as well, like Bala has said, both with government and with private schools, and we see that there are a lot of benefits. I'm going to go lightly on that because I think some of this has already been touched. One of the things that for me in this, the point number 3 was very important. If ICT in the classroom is really to be effective. It is not meant to be a way of getting knowledge. It's a way of applying knowledge. How do you move a child from a point of view? Because the getting knowledge you've been doing all these years. Sages on stages have given knowledge to students. But unfortunately, that knowledge is not staying. The knowledge really stays when you're able to move the child from acquiring to application of knowledge. And that's where I think the maximum benefit of ICT would come. The other aspect, which is a very realistic ground reality issue in India, is how do you give a larger pool of people access to education? Having a technology-linked curriculum can actually create some basic things. For instance, there are many schools, and as I spent a lot of time on the road in Karnataka looking at many of the schools, there are classrooms, buildings are there fantastic, there are not enough teachers, or there are teachers, they are not necessarily either skilled or motivated to do great. Having said that, I'm giving a negative view. I also say with a lot of satisfaction, there are a lot of great teachers. But then there are a lot of places where there is no access. If you're able to create a complete curriculum-linked, technology-based solution, at least a basic literacy or basic delivery of knowledge to the students in a much larger pool is now possible. And that's fantastic. MHRD and the states are all taking a lot of new steps in bringing in computer-aided learning in the classrooms, because that will at least solve a basic problem of access and basic problem of access to reasonably good quality education. The next thing that I want to talk about, specifically the last item on this slide, which is that infrastructure costs are not restricted just to the, obviously, the table chairs, etc. But if you really want your child to explore, if you want your child to experience what it is to play with a little bit of, in a chemistry lab or a bio lab or a physics lab, it is not feasible. It is really at this stage all government schools, all even private schools in semi-urban areas do not have good infrastructure. We can use technology by creating simulations, by using games, by using just videotapes of teachers doing lab experiments where it is not possible, so that at least you're able to give a child a first-hand feel of what it is like. For instance, there are some experiments that we have where you actually show a dropper taking a drop of acid and dropping it on a metal. What happens? You see hydrogen getting created and the metal salt getting created, and you can actually keep allowing various children to increase the speed of moving the acid. What happens? The more hydrogen gets produced, faster rate. There's so many things you can do where you could not have done it if you did not have all the reagents and the full labs. So from very pragmatic perspective, we can actually significantly improve both reach and quality of education for our students. The second aspect, I had just some examples of what it meant, and I think Bala has already touched upon it. There were 2-3 things which really struck me as I saw what was the implication of all this. One was simple thing, SSLC pass percentage went up after you put this because there were not enough teachers, there was not enough being delivered, we are seeing that. But the other thing which I really liked was this bit, I don't know if it's very visible. The pass percentage went up, attendance went up. Bala was also talking about it. The children actually want to come to school because there's something going on in school. There's something interesting. They finally understand what is going on in school. Enrollment went up. Children want to come to the school. Parents want to send their children to the school because they're actually learning something as against what was not happening. So some basic problems that we face in India in terms of access of education to the masses, a lot of that we can indeed do through this. Couple of other things, I just want to touch upon this before we go to the last slide. A few new methods or new media of delivering education. How can we use this? One of the things that we do in our company under the banner Tutor Vista is providing one-to-one tutoring services to the global student base using the capability of our teachers from India. So teachers are sitting in home, students are sitting in their home. Using the internet, we deliver one-to-one tutoring. Completely internet delivered, completely internet sold. Students are acquired through internet, teachers are enrolled through internet. The whole delivery happens through internet. It's a completely new paradigm for the international space. It is really a huge cost reduction and access for them. But for India, this is something which I've spoken to many people in the different education departments. We see a huge opportunity to reach out to train our teachers across the huge mass of India that is. we really struggle to continuously upgrade our teachers. Even if we have good teachers who are willing to learn, who are keen to do, we are not able to continuously upgrade them on what is the latest, because the whole physical aspect of going to locations and providing them training is a big challenge. So here's a new platform we could possibly use. Virtual environment, another complete, nothing to do with me. Second Life, I'm sure many of you have seen that. A lot of universities I've seen internationally and some of the better colleges and schools here, and even companies are now finding that tools like Second Life are able to provide our children and our youngsters who are getting into a job environment a real life simulation. You can actually create a retail shop. You can train a student, a youngster who you want to go and work in a retail shop, give them a full environment of actually walking through every step of that and actually doing a transaction, being in the back office, running the entire back office, stacking shelves, anything. You can give a complete simulation through that in 3D. Adaptive learning. Again, back to what Ashish was saying earlier, and another gentleman over here mentioned about how do you make a child interact and learn at his or her own pace, in his or own. So there are many tools that we are now using which gives a different remedial path for each child. Each child learns, interacts. As you learn, you assess yourself, you interact, you then create your own remedial path which your teacher can create. So, and here I'm not just talking about self-learning, I'm talking about in an environment where you're one-to-many, how do you still provide a one-to-one remedial path which is different from every child, or a one-to-one accelerated path for a child who's really good. So a number of different methods, technologies are available. But then, really, it is all about how do we make it happen in this country. How do we, because there are many challenges here, and let me talk about a few. One is, we need to have clarity and policies, and with the new ICT policy that's coming, hopefully a lot of this will get clarity. But you know, actually there is something very fundamental here, which is willingness of various people in the chain, the whole food chain, to change. For instance, as a teacher, suddenly when I lose control, or I no longer have this prime position of being the expert in everything, how do I deal with it? It's a huge challenge, and a lot of people find it difficult to make that transition of allowing a student to be maybe on par with you at some stages, maybe allowing a student to question you, maybe allowing the student to do his exploration and come back and challenge you. I don't think many of us, I mean, if I have myself been, while I'm not an educationist, I keep teaching in my spare time, it's a very disquieting thought. So how do we get our teachers to make the transformation? There's a lot of work that we're doing there. We are understanding how to build the confidence level of our teachers to say, how can you be a partner in the progress of a student rather than be the person who's the sage who is making a disciple out of them. So that transition in amongst people has to change. Our own attitude towards allowing to seeing technology as a core way of us to grow rather than as something which is a nice to have, which is something which adds glamour. It is no longer there. It is core. There is no way we can reach to the masses with the quality of education unless we use technology. So how do we bring about those changes in the stakeholders' mind? So those are some of the things, some of the questions that actually I'd like to leave. I don't think I have all the answers. It is something that all of us have to jointly come together and see how we can sort some of these challenges out. With that, I close.